All right, everyone. So thanks for joining in Truth on Tap live stream. I think this is episode 20. Got Kyle in the house this time. I know last time it was just me and Darren Jones from Farrell. But Kyle's in the house. We get a full crew, and then we have none other than Storm Brodnax from La Pesca Lodge. Brother, welcome.
Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it. Looking forward to
Yeah,
this.
of course. Yeah, of course. So tonight's conversation, we want to talk a lot about maybe a little less about Baffin. We can certainly talk about that, but more about kind of early spring time approaches and transitions and things of that nature. But before we get into any of that, I want to make one announcement today. If anyone follows us on social media and also our heavy hitter participants, we finally got the Truth Little John and Little John XLs in. So that is a huge thing. Thank God. Appreciate Mirror. That is one thing we've been working on for an awfully long time. All that to say, it's finally here, and the Truth Little John XLs are now available at Waterloo Outfitters. They're also available at Rockport Tackletown, soon to be available at Roy's, Bayou City Angler, Anglers Anonymous, LZ's Hardware in Mississippi. So, man, I'll say one thing: it came out badass, and so. Mirror Lore, if you're familiar with their Lil Johns, they don't do a lot of two-tones, but they knocked it out of the park with this one. And so I think people will be very, very excited, very pleased for that. So I caveat all that, and it's available. And if it's not available in your local area, coming soon. And certainly let us know if you have a retailer in mind. That way we can get it over there. So anyway, enough about that. What's that, brother?
But I got one in mind.
Okay. Oh yeah, is it right there?
Yeah, got one right here, man.
Antlers in the background.
Yes, sir.
No, that's awesome, man. So
I will say one thing about that Truth Little John. So me and Eric had to work on that, and like Chris just said, it was really hard to get that two-tone right. And you're probably going to notice it really looks a lot like a really good Plum Nasty too. It's kind of a mixture of both. It's kind of a mixture of a Plum Nasty and a Truth. And obviously our relationship with Lowell, of course, I had to clear it through him. And he's gonna tell everybody it's a Plum Nasty, and he's gonna say we're pot lickers. But it's a really good color. And we had to go through about 4 or 5 different samples to get it right. And the final product came out really, really good. But it's gonna look like like I said, it's going to look like a mixture between a Truth and a Plum Nasty. And I promise you, Lowell already knows. So you don't have to text him and tell him. He already knows.
No. And dude, thanks for tackling that one. That was when I was deployed. So kind of working through the color, specifications and working through that. Eric was sending samples to you. And so thanks, Kyle, for really kind of bringing that to fruition. And certainly the hurricanes that happened last year in the Tampa area certainly halted production from Mirror Lore's perspective, but everybody was patient. We were patient. And anyway, it's finally here. So, yeah. All right. Enough about that. More about La Pesca Lodge and Capt Storm Brodnax. And so, brother, before we dive into kind of the springtime transition, kind of a customary question we ask all of our guests here is really tell us a little bit about yourself and maybe how you got into guiding and ultimately about La Pesca Lodge.
Man, my name's Justin Storm Brodnax. I go by Storm, but my first name is Justin. I've grown up on Baffin all my life. Since I was a little kid, I've been walking down in front of King's Inn and catching fish and stuff like that. Transitioning into guiding, I got out of oil and gas, and when it got slow about 9-10 years ago, and I had nothing else to do, right? And the only thing I could fall back on was fishing. So here we are. Excuse me, I'm getting over a cold too. But yeah, that's all I could do. No college degree, just straight back to fishing, and here I am. Luckily, yeah. I met my wife through the transition, and a couple years later on, we came under circumstances were a little different, and we got together. She started making all the phone calls for me, doing all the deposits and stuff like that, and it turned into a bigger deal where we were running Airbnbs and renting houses and doing things on the water just to try to put our clients in places because there's not a lot of lodging down here on Baffin. And then that turned into other things, and excuse me, we partnered with my father-in-law, which has been a great supporter was, one of my biggest supporters. And he kind of funded the project for us, and it turned into La Pesca Lodge. And here we are, man. We're just working our ass off trying to keep the doors open. So
Yeah, sure.
Long story short.
And so for those who, maybe are out of state, may not understand kind of Baffin's kind of geographical reach, if you will, but, a lot of people fish the mouth of Baffin and or Baffin coming south out of Corpus, right? But you're in a unique situation, and I'm very familiar with Rivera. I keep my boat down in Ricardo, which is right there in Rivera. But Baffin kind of then forks, right? If you look at Baffin proper, it forks into the Cayo de Grillo and then the Laguna Salada. And that landmass right in the middle of that fork is called Rivera, Texas, right? And so that's where you guys are located, which is, I would say, known as the back of Baffin, if you will.
Yes, sir. If you're familiar with the Coffert Hubert Memorial Park, we're about, I'd say, a quarter of a mile just if you're coming out of the park, to the left.
To the
Can't
left,
miss
yep.
the big white boat barn, the sign over there. We're right here.
Yep. Yeah, and then if you're leaving Corpus, and then if folks who fish Mansfield, you literally drive through Kingsville, down 77, all the way to Raymondville, and then you take the left to go to Port Mansfield. So it's really kind of a nice stop in the middle of that. And it's just beautiful, man. I think the thing I love about fishing back at Rivera in that area is just the solitude. It's really one of those areas where you got the Kennedy and the King Ranch. And there's just not a lot of development, a lot of pastures, and really just a lot of farmland, South Texas landscape. And it's absolutely gorgeous. And you can hear coyotes howling, you can see Nilgai walking, all that stuff. And it's just kind of one of those things where when you get back and slip in the back of Baffin, it's really rugged. And that's what's, I feel, the draw about fishing back there, aside from obviously the enormous trout that roam its waters.
So I've got some funny stories about Storm, but I want to tell one because Storm came fishing. I tell my clients this a lot too. You probably don't even remember this little thing. You might when I say it, but Storm came fishing with me when I first started running Shandy trips. I think it was like my first or second year running trips out to Shandy. He came with Darren and a couple guys, and we had a great time. But you see how he's all quiet and reserved like that, right? So when you're a guide and you have another guide, especially one that you don't know, you're like, all right, I don't want to mess up. I don't want this dude to have nothing on me, right? And so I didn't know Storm. I thought he was cool, but he's all quiet like that. And it was like an overcast day one day, and we're doing good. Things kind of slow down a little bit. And, I got my fish bag. And back then, I had a lot longer leash because I don't know if I had did I have the shark bands when you came? I don't think I was using them yet.
I don't think you did, no, sir.
Yeah, so I wasn't using the shark bands yet. So I had a little longer leash on my fish bag. And Storm's back behind me, and he's I want to say he's working a corky or a top water or something. He's just kind of back there, quiet. I ain't heard nothing from him for a while, but I know he's behind me. And I go to cast, and I hook my freaking fish bag, and I just boom, I went like that. Didn't break a rod or nothing. I just laid my rod down, tried to play it smooth, and I pulled my bag up to me, and I just turned around like this, and Storm just sitting there. He goes, "I saw that." I was like, "Oh my god, dude!" And it was so funny, man. I tell my clients that story all the time, man. But no, we had a good time, man. Storm's a solid dude. I've been, after that trip, they hadn't had the lodge yet, and then obviously started following him on Facebook, and then and Instagram and La Pesca. So it's kind of cool. I haven't been there yet, but I've been following the journey through social media. So I remember when y'all were posting about like the first time the slab was poured and all that stuff. So it was cool to kind of see it from that, and then you start seeing, other people that are going, and I know exactly what the lodge is because I've seen every video and picture y'all have posted. It's just kind of cool to see all that come around, see people that I know that are showing up there, and I'm like, I know where that is, So, but I'm getting down there this year. That's a goal for 2025. I want to come down there, and I gotta get some ammo on Storm because I don't have anything on him. He didn't do anything wrong on my trip.
Yeah.
You remember that?
Yeah, besides out fishing you guys, I had a heck of a time, just fishing with you.
Yeah, man, that was so. That was just I tried to be so slick, and I just looked over my shoulder. And you said, "I saw that."
That was a blast. I talk about that trip all the time. That's the only time I've been to the Chandelier Islands, and it was a hell of a time.
Yeah, man, that was good times. Good times.
Yeah. Well, cool, man. Well, Storm, tell us about, fishing right now in Baffin, and or some stories. Actually, tell us about Baffin right now in terms of its fishability, how it's fishing, and things of that nature.
Man, so Baffin works a lot like a lake would, like a small lake would. When the tide's low, you go to the mouth of the lake, right? When the tide's high, you go to the back. And as you know, the tide's low, and you fished out here a few days ago, and I don't know how far back you went, but if you did, I bet you kind of struggled. The closer you got to the mouth, you probably caught more fish. There was a little more bait. And that's kind of the transition we're on right now. Spring's coming. Our tides are going to start rising up. As soon as our cold fronts kind of slow down and these northers stop blowing 35, 40 miles an hour, our bay is going to fill up, and our fish are ready to spawn. They're filling up with eggs. They're getting heavier. And as soon as that tide comes up and those grass beds get enough water on top of them, I think we're going to see a lot of fish up real shallow, on these south shorelines like White Bluff, Black Bluff, and things like that. And even in Alizon, we have those narrow strips of grass. I think those fish are going to get up there as shallow as they can, start laying some eggs. So yeah, I would look forward to getting up there shin deep, when that tide comes up.
Yeah, it's one of those unique areas, where you fish down south in Mansfield, certainly a lot flatter, a lot shallower base system. And then obviously, certainly it feels like a little bit more grass. And then obviously, with Baffin, the draw, at least for me, and what I shared with it in the Laguna podcast with Andrew Spinetti, was the mystique. Man, the mystique of those freaking rocks, man, is just absolutely, it's hard to put into words, because you get some of those kind of dreary, overcast days, and you're kind of walking in and around those rocks that are like Volkswagens, down, underneath the water, and how treacherous it is. And there's just something about it, man. You can almost feel like you can look on a bank and just see like these legends, overlooking, and just knowing that at any cast, you can truly, hook, a 30 plus. And so we're seeing a lot of 30-inch fish this year. Certainly we had the last, we posted about Brett Carone and the 2 double digits that he just caught.
Man, congratulations on those fish too. Hell of a job. I mean, but once in a lifetime opportunity, God.
Times 2. Holy yeah. My favorite part is, getting way off topic here, is Mike Bossy in those videos when he's taking a video.
What a great dude too, Mike is.
Dude, when Brett pulls up, that 11-pounder, he goes, "Holy Toledo." Dude, I'll lose it every time he says that. So anyway,
I was getting a kick out of that.
Bossy called me that day. He sent me the videos, and then he called me like right after it happened. And then he realized, like, he sent the video so soon. He called me. He was like, "Hey, dude, you're not gonna believe this." He was like, "What? Don't show those videos to anybody. Don't send it." I'm like, I'm not gonna send the videos to anybody. But they were like little kids, man. They were. I mean, I would have been too, but it was so funny talking to him like right after it happened, because he was just like, I just got to call you, man. I got to get back at it. But man, it was nuts, dude. It was nuts. He was so excited. It was cool, man. That is
rightfully so.
Cool
Man. Rightfully so.
It's cool to see that, like, doing so good on social media too. Like his post is like everywhere, and that's cool, man. That was awesome to see those caliber fish, and those days are still around.
And that gets back to Baffin, right? Which is the mystique of it, the production that it can offer, and what it used to offer. You hear the old stories of, from Cliff Webb and all those guys, right? In terms of, what Baffin used to be. And certainly it's having, maybe some glimpses of potential recovery to some extent. But I say all that to say, man, there's some big ass fish in Baffin, and the mystique and the draw to it is those rocks. And so you can fish, softer stuff. You can fish sand, you can fish rock, you can fish grass. It's kind of all over. But that's one of those things about Baffin for me, is it's kind of all at your fingertips, but it also just has this mystique about it. So I don't know what your thoughts are on that, Storm.
Oh no, Baffin, and I'll take a line from Aubrey Black is the last best place, man. There's nowhere else like it. And if you come down here and spend any time out here just walking these shorelines, you'll think the same thing. You might even say the same phrase without knowing it. It is the last best place. There's nowhere else like it.
Yeah. In all those stories, that's really, in Brett Sweeney and I's podcast that we did together, we're talking about some of those infamous like 100-pound stringers on South Shoreline. We've all heard of them, right? And that's really the genesis of kind of heavy hitters. Is I'm like, shoot, man, like, 100 pounds in a day, you hearing like, 80, 90, 100-pound stringers. Shit, I don't even know what I could catch heaviest 10 in a year. And that was really kind of the genesis of heavy hitters, and how we came about with that is I wonder what production would look like. And, we're seeing some obviously significant production this year. And I think we have multiple 80-pound stringers so far, and it's not even, just turned March.
The numbers this year are nuts, dude.
Ridiculous.
The numbers this year are and that's that's crazy this year. I mean, I'm glad I'm not in Texas competing with them, dude.
If I don't weigh a fish, y'all don't get mad at me, but I just don't want to be embarrassed, man. These numbers are ridiculous already.
Yeah, for sure. So, all right, before we get to Tyler's question, so right now the water level is pretty low. What do you use any sort of like buoys or anything to tell you in terms of water level to dictate? And then what is the optimum range that you're looking for? Obviously, you don't have to dispel any secrets if you want to, or if you don't want to, but my ask is, what are you using in terms of looking at that water level and how that maybe dictates where you fish?
So Baffin can be complicated at times because we're a wind-driven bay, right? So I have different markers all over the place. I have a marker on my way to the ramp coming over the bridge. I have a marker at the ramp, when I'm launching my boat. And mainly that one's just for not taking my propeller off, right? Because if you've ever launched at Baffin, it can be ugly sometimes.
Yep.
But then you can get in the back of Baffin and have no tide, and then you get midway and the tide's moving. It's coming up this time of year. Then you can get over towards Penascal or Compuerta, and the tide's 1.5 feet higher. So it just depends on where you want to fish. And like I say, I'll use different markers. And if it's real low at the ramp, I'm thinking of looking for bait first off on my way out. Yep. If I'm starting to see some bait and I'm just running a charter, I might stop and check that bait. But if it doesn't happen right there and the tide's low, I'm going to move and I'll check another marker. Maybe it might be a marker, 32 or something, or 28, getting closer to center reef, and see where the barnacles are on that. And I can kind of see what that tide's doing this time of year. In the summer, it's staying the same, right? It's not moving. But as I'm waiting on this to come up in the spring, that's what I'm looking at. And lately, I've been finding myself towards Penascal, towards Corrales, I don't really like to fish tide gauge a whole lot just because it's a highway and there's a whole lot of boats over there. But sometimes you can't help it this time of year. You kind of got to get in there because fish, it's a highway. The old timers will call that all the way up through like Niggerhead, the rocking chair set. And they'll say when these cold fronts are kind of coming and going, these northerns, you catch them coming out of Alazan, running up towards Compuerta, and then you catch them on the way out. And then when that south wind turns around, you're going to catch them coming back up into Alazan. And this is the time of year we got our drum spawn going on too, So those drum are all over Alazan. They're coming up. They're going back. They're like salmon, right? And they go back to where they're born and spawn or whatever it is. So the bay's full of those traveling fish. And a lot of times I think when you get a school of fish moving out on one of these cold fronts like we had today, real light one, you might get those trout to move with it. And you'll notice that at places like Tide Gauge. But as this tide comes up, these fish move back. They're going to stage back into Alazan. They're going to stage in the grass in that south shoreline. The Guna Salada is getting a lot of good grass. I'm not trying to give any of those good walk-in spots away. But as you know, if you fished it lately, that grass line is doubled in size and length. And it has a lot to do with efforts from the Heart Research Institute and things like that. But also I think our bay it's making a comeback. Our tides are kind of coming up and it's allowing that grass to grow a little more. but they're spawning hard back there. They're spawning in the Caldo Gruo. You know, you get towards places like Buzzard's Roost or back behind the wells. There's a lot more grass than I've seen in the past, you know. And as that tide comes up, those fish are going to be right in there. They're going to be on top of that stuff. They're going to be doing their natural patterns, you know, just sticking on that. And I like to, I'm sorry, I like to like target like a, you know, if I'm going after a spawning fish, and I'll say this, like a lot of times you'll catch a bunch of male trout. It might be early, it might be late, but you're catching nothing but male trout. They're grunting. And then you go into catching bigger trout, and those fish come up to spawn or whatever they're doing up shallow. You know, I'm not a biologist, but you can almost kind of tell this time of year when those fish are going to move up, because those small fish will stop biting, those males will stop biting. You'll get up shin deep, and those fish will be up there sunning or laying eggs or whatever they're doing. You'll kind of move to that shallower water when that tide's up.
Yeah.
At least that's what I think.
No, and I'm glad you brought that, because there is so much real estate to cover, man, in Baffin, all the way back up, you know, Drum Point, and certainly back in the Salada as well, all the way out to, you know, Penascal, right, and Tide Gauge, and that excludes Alazan, but certainly Alazan is part of that complex, right? And so there's just a ton of stuff, and seeing that kind of come to fruition, where you're talking about fish kind of moving in and out. After that first front that we had, the first one before we had like the snow here, that kind of came through, that real hard one, that was when those water temps came down. It got low. It certainly got into the 40s. That was the first real, you know, dip that we had. And then, but the water was still pretty chilly. And fish that I was catching in Alazan, I'm like, what's going on here? I had to adjust, and then I haven't fished Baffin nearly as long as you have. It's been about 10 years, 8 or 10 years, I think I would say, full up like fishing it. But I would say like finally truly understanding some of those patterns like you're talking about has certainly been helpful for me. So, and it was really predicated on bait. Bait wasn't everywhere. Bait was in certain places. And when that bait was stacked up, the fish were just right behind them, right? So I think that's a really good dovetail into, you know, Tyler's question, which we've had up there for a hot minute. Which is, you know, pretty familiar with the main bay, and it's very structured, but it only has made a couple of trips to west of Clyburn. How would you compare the structure and patterns in the back bay versus the front?
I would say, Tyler, they're very comparable. If you look at the shorelines, like if you see a high bluff, you're going to know you have kind of a drop off and a deeper mark out there. Speaking as far as the rocks go, it sounds crazy, but most of your dangerous stuff is going to be out towards the mouth of the bay, you know, the Badlands, all that stuff. Penascal, all the rocks coming around Penascal down towards Corrales, that south shoreline, that's your most dangerous stuff. The back of the bay is actually one of the safer places. You know, you still got to be careful. There's sandbars and stuff out there, and there's shallow areas. But getting kind of back to what you were saying, if I was stuck in the back and I didn't have a Verado and a way to get to the mouth of the bay on a tide like we have right now, you have those flats around Drum Point. We have the grass and all that stuff like we're talking about in the Salada. But as you come around that peninsula, you know, what makes that point that you were talking about, you have what we call the Big House or Camel Toe Cove. You know, it's the house for the camels, right? And structure like that, and that you don't have the bluff there anymore because it's been leveled and there's houses there now, but there used to be a high bluff right there. And you know, when you have that deeper drop off and there's a rock structure out there. In areas that you don't have that, you have a flat sandy beach, you're going to have a flat. But in that case, on that peninsula, it gets deep really fast. So when that tide's low, I like to fish that area, especially if I was walking in. You know, you like to get in areas where it gets shallow to deep really fast. There's some rock structure out there and you have more current moving around. On that low tide, that's kind of what I would target.
What, you know, you talked about water movement from, you know, in Baffin, familiar with that, right? The tide is negligible. And through years, it feels like it's a very unique bay. Holy crap. Where it feels like when the wind blows out of the southeast, the water actually falls a little bit, versus if it blows out of the north, it actually comes in. It's kind of weird. It's almost counter to what you would think would happen. And so, just those areas are really, I don't know. It's just such a unique bay, man.
That's getting back to my markers. Like I say, I get back to Center Reef, and it could be higher over there, and it's a lot of the wind. So you can get into it scientifically, but until you fish it, I'll just confuse you saying things about the tide, because there is no tide. It's absent, right? Like you say.
Oh yeah. So that was my question, which is, tide is negligible. Wind is your friend there, really, right? I mean, in terms of moving something around.
We get 2 tides a year, right? Basically, you get a real low winter tide, you get a high spring, a low summer, and a high fall. And that's how it moves. And our fish move like that too. Just like your fishing's a little bit better when your water temp's around 75 degrees. Excuse me, I use that when I tell my clients when they ask when the best time to come down. I don't say spring or winter. I'm looking at the water temp, and I'm saying 75, 70, 75 degrees is my favorite time to fish.
Yeah. But in terms of numbers or big ones? Or both?
Big ones. I mean, you're in Baffin Bay. And I'll go back to my clients again, because I asked this question on a low tide, like right now. Do you want to catch a big one, or do you want to catch a lot of fish? What's your goal? Because if you want to catch a big one, Baffin is that bay system. I don't care if you got a boat or a kayak or the tide's high or low. You have an opportunity. What you do with that opportunity is up to you. But you are going to have an opportunity. And I joke around. I tell my clients all the time, I'm never going to take you to a place where you couldn't catch a 30-inch trout. And then people laugh and think it's a joke, but I firmly believe that, because I've seen them caught or been part of it. Had clients catch them. I've caught them myself in every corner of this bay. I mean, there's not a place in this bay I would feel uncomfortable fishing and not catching a big one, but it might be the only one. So.
True. Yeah. And you said it right. I mean, as long as you're sliding a boat into Baffin, there's always a chance. And so that is true. This gets back to water quality there, and talking about, like, I know Scott Murray had a lot to do with bringing Baffin back. I think was the effort by Heart Research Institute, that they're just trying to improve water quality. I did a podcast with Mike Blackwood, and he was talking about running Rivera Channel, and being able to see, X feet down, right, and the water was really, really clean. It sounded like back then. I don't know any different, man. I'm a transplant from Texas. And so has the water quality regressed? And then do you feel like the water quality is coming back? That's why the fishing's coming back, and then is there any, sense of brown tide in Baffin?
It's interesting. Casey, good question, because and back to what you said, Baffin is a special place. There's always brown tide in sections of Baffin. I do some stuff with the Heart Research Institute, and my buddy Dominic is in the water quality and the testing deal, and I take him out every chance that I can. I like to do it monthly when I can, just to see what how far it goes, right? How far it ranges. But if you've ever fished like Site 55 or past A&I Pier, and you've seen that white PVC pipe right there, that's one of our sampling areas. Okay. And every time they've sampled that, there's been a hint of brown tide, and could be some of the best fishing at that time, best fishing. But there's always brown tide in Baffin and parts of Baffin, and they're working on that. They're trying to figure out why. I'm not a biologist, but that's why I work with the Heart Research Institute. And if you have questions about that, I suggest following them, and they do some cool stuff, and they're helping us out big time.
Yeah. But, do you feel like the water quality's gotten better over the last couple of years? Because personally, I feel like it has.
Yes.
In my opinion. Okay.
I feel like the tides have helped us on that. We've had a higher tide for longer periods, and that's enabled our grass time to grow better. When that tide does drop out in Baffin, it drops hard, and that grass might be out of water for a few days at a time. So that's helped us out tremendously. But I've seen, since I've been here, my lifetime fishing Baffin Bay, since I've been going past Corrales, that grass line from Corrales towards White Bluff, or what we call La Parra, has grown, within miles, right? Used to go past Corrales and get towards Black Bluff, and there's very little grass, and now it's widened, and you're seeing grass all the way down into the turn at La Parra. And a lot of the guys say it was like that a long time ago, but in my lifetime, I'm just seeing it grow back like that.
Yeah.
So, and then the water's green. I mean, growing up as a kid, you hear the stories. When the wind blows, you can't see your hand 2 inches under the water, but I've seen it like that before without the wind blowing. And now it's green.
Yeah.
It is coming back.
That's good.
I don't like to get too far into that because I don't know all the research behind it, but it's definitely coming back.
No, that's fair. Ron Fontenot question here. I think it's actually a really good one. Regarding wind direction and speed, should an unfamiliar angler stick to the protected shorelines, or do windward shorelines produce better?
Depends on how windy it is, man. Like say, getting back to that greener water. Now that we have green water, I fished that north shoreline like at 3 sloughs in a 20-mile-an-hour southeast wind and caught good fish. You know, I've had waves crashing over my back at tide gauge before and caught good fish. Ideally, I'm not going to target areas like that. I'm going to try to catch fish where you don't have the wind blowing too hard into the shoreline, because we don't have a lot of grass and that water gets muddy fast and you don't have a lot of time to work it. So if it goes from 10 to 20 miles an hour, it can go from good fishable water to you're blown out and making a trip across Baffin real fast. And nobody wants to make a trip across Baffin, that south shoreline, in a 30-mile-an-hour wind, right?
Yep.
So
what techniques are you using? And I'm interested to see, because, you know, as Kyle has mentioned many times, man, it's from Jay, man, trout water is trout water, right? And so, like, what are you targeting, or what lures are you kind of throwing right now? And I'm interested to see if it kind of coincides with what Kyle's throwing over there in the Mississippi Gulf Coast.
Man, I'm a big down south guy. I typically throw down south. Right now I'm throwing those big smooths. But before I change my bait, or my profile, because normally I'm going by profile, big profile, the action in the profile and stuff like that. I'm gonna change the color of my bait. So I like to match the water color in Baffin. If it's greener water, my confidence bait's chicken of the sea. And I know that works a lot in different areas, but man, it works great in our watercolor down here. Mm-hmm. And I like the one without the chartreuse tail, you know.
Pure.
Yeah. And when that water grays up a little bit, I'll go to that chartreuse tail. I might, if the pressure's high, I'm going to downsize probably to one of those 4-inch, you know.
Yeah, and Southern Shad. Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
And then I go down to that
burner.
The burner shad. You know,
burner shad,
it's real bad. That sun's bright, and I'll use this tournament as a example. Man, I was catching them on the big smooth. I caught a 32-inch fish pre-fishing for the tournament. Right before that, and I was going off the barometric pressure, right, and caught it right during the major, which I always try to do. But when that pressure got high and that sun came out, that north wind turned around, I went down to that 4-inch and started catching some fish. And I had some buddies that were throwing little johns and catching more fish than me, so I went down to that burner shad. And back to the question, that's my deal. I'll downsize my profile or move my color before I do that. But
so you're mostly throwing tails, is what I hear. Are you throwing a lot of soft dines, soft dine XLs, or?
Yes, sir.
Soft water, hell.
I love soft tines. I throw a lot of soft tines this time of year, especially in the back Alizon. You know, where you don't have a lot of grass. You're not working too shallow. I like to work those shallow ledges and outer grass lines. You know, if you're walking down in Alizon and the water's clear enough where you can see that shallow, shin-deep grass line, I like to pop that soft tine right on the edge of that, or move over to that break and work that way steep. But that's one of my favorite places to work a soft tine is in Alizon.
Yeah, I got you. Kyle, what are you seeing over now in terms of where you're fishing?
Man, I'm kind of liking it because, our bait got hit so hard that pretty much, I know I say this, I sound like a broken record, but now it's true more than ever. If you find bait, you will find trout right now. But this bait is so scarce. So I actually like that. I prefer that over there being bait absolutely everywhere. I like it when it's concentrated in little spots. And like Storm said in the beginning, typically I don't fish super shallow, especially at Shandy. But I've been fishing some other places and have been fishing shallow. And I've been finding man, they're doing like they did last year. Those nice trout are hanging out with redfish, man. I mean, schools of reds. The reds are everywhere, and slot reds, bull reds, black drum are everywhere. But those trout are up shallow with those red, and you'll see like 4 or 5 reds and like maybe 2 trout, or 3 reds and a trout, or something like that. But man, since there's not a lot of bait, and I was telling Bossy about this the other day. Last year, I mean, we slammed everything on that big Papa Pearl, man. What a crazy color, like, production. Man, it's good in everything. But I had a day where I had a little kid, and he actually just came fishing with me again. But I had a little kid, and we saw some black drum out at Shandy. You know, those big black drum are picky. It is not easy to get them to eat something. You know, I don't keep gulp on my boat, so I don't. You know what I mean? But it's hard to get them to hit something. Sometimes it's hard to get them to hit live shrimp. You know, they're so picky. But man, I guess they're chasing these like sand eels or worms in the sand, because we threw that big Papa Pearl supermodel, and they were fighting over, and saying that all this past week, man, we were going in south side of islands, and we were sight casting drum, and everything was hitting that big Papa Pearl southern shad. I have some of the big smooth, but I'm just kind of saving those more for trout. I didn't want to use them for that, because they're not really made for that. They're going to get tore up real easy, you know, doing that. But I'm sure it would work just as well. But yeah, I've gotten a little action on the double D, and I'm not throwing as many soft dines right now, because I have lost more soft dines this year than I care to admit, because I think I hardly ever threw a corky, man. They wanted the soft dines so bad. So I'm kind of tired of destroying soft dines. So I'm giving them a break. But yeah, a lot of tails, and I love that Chicken of the Sea Pure as well, Storm. That's one of my go-to, especially at Shandy, man. Any watercolor, they'll hit that. And they actually have these. I posted a video like last year. They have some of these green worms that get in that grass out at Shandy. It is a worm. Where am I at here? It is a worm like that long, and it's like dark green. It looks very similar to his watermelon red or Chicken of the Sea, and same as the Lil Johns as well. But yeah, I haven't. That's really what I've been throwing, man. Is supermodels here lately. That's just kind of been my go-to.
And you'll have to excuse me, man. I'm the kind of guy that I'll pick a lure up off the dash, and until someone starts out fishing me, I'm not going to change it. You know, I've never been too far behind with a down south lure. So
yeah. That's right.
I will say, I mean, as green as that water is, and it's a unique color green back there, is I throw a lot of just true plum. That's really kind of one of my favorite color patterns and profile, or really colors. That and golden brim, watermelon red for sure. It has to have a little bit more color to it, but man, for some reason that clear water, I really do like a true plum, like the true, almost like iridescent, has a little bit of that kind of blue, pink glitter in it. It's something about that, and as well as that golden brim, which has a little bit of smoke to it, and that gold and silver flake and black flake to it. For some reason, back there in the back of Baffin, I find like a lot of those darker profile baits have just produced for me over the years. If I go the opposite direction, it's almost like a pearl chartreuse, or almost like a true pearl, but nothing really typically in between. It's kind of weird, where like Papa Pearl or something along those lines. It's kind of a strong kind of profile in one way or the other, light, or mostly often really dark.
And
any minute now, I'm going to be throwing mainly chartreuse and true plum or Bossy's. I really like Bossy's plum chartreuse color, because I like that plum to have a little bit of, like, you can see through it a little bit, and that's how his is, and it's got the blue flakes, and that's one of my. I do good with the darker purple, like purple demon mirror lures and stuff like that, but I don't know, I really gravitate towards those purples that, like, you can kind of see through a little bit, I think it does a little better just from what I've seen.
I will tell you, I
you
wish
see-
I would collab on with Bossy on some of that truth because, I do like that silver and purple. It is
Yeah. There's been times, man, where we've had
especially this clay back here. This clay that it
yeah.
looks like a little trout. And I'm not saying anything, but I hear little trout used to be good bait back in the day. I don't know.
I'm sure.
But
Chris, pull up this question about SpaceX. I've seen it pop up twice.
So I've heard a little bit about it, and I'm kind of putting it off, Lewis, mainly because.
Will you put it up just so people can see it?
Yeah, turn it to like a political conversation in any way, shape, or form, right?
Yeah.
But with
I
the way
I think they would approve something that would really hurt us that bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just wanted you to pull that up just because I've seen him put it there twice, and I didn't want him to think, like we obviously see it, but I personally don't know enough about it to speak on it.
Sure.
From asking it like that, it sounds bad, but I don't know the details to it. But I am going to look into it. And if you find a bunch of info on it, man, send it to me. I'll read it. I like diving into that kind of stuff and seeing what is really into it. But I have seen that pop up a little bit. I've just been too busy to look into it, man. But I appreciate you asking a question, though.
Yeah. Same here. I don't know too much about what's going on that, but if it is going to hurt the area, we hope somebody gets involved like Captain Water to really
for sure
help that stuff out.
Yeah. Okay. So I want to go back up to
Cody had a good question. Yep.
Yeah, I was going to pull that up. So Cody, your question is: any thoughts on sticking it out through spring showers, barring heavy wind? He's a West Galveston guy, so just trying to understand a little bit more. Go ahead.
Yes, spring showers. Love them, man. I would never go in for a spring shower ever unless there was lightning. I'd never stay on the water for lightning, right? Unless I'm stuck in it. But heavy wind, this is my time of year, and it should be that time of year, I would guess, in Galveston or wherever you're at when they're spawning. It doesn't matter what the wind's doing. It doesn't matter what the moon's doing a lot of times. When those fish want to eat when they're spawning, I bar it all. And I'm a fishing guide too, so I'm not going to cut my clients a short trip because it's windy. And I've caught better fish in the wind, gusting 35, 40 miles an hour. I've caught damn good fish in the wind. So I'd never call a trip for the wind. With showers, I call for them, man. Please bring them. Love them.
Gotcha. Stookie has a question. Do you primarily fish deep water, Baffin, or do you tend to find the better quality fish up shallow?
As a fishing guide in Baffin, I always ask the question, are you after a big one or are you after multiple fish? And everybody always says a big one until they realize how much work you got to put in to do it, right? So I tend to send my clients out deeper to catch more fish, but you still have the chance for a big one. And that's why I have the opportunity to catch bigger fish, I think, is because I'm normally shallow. They push me shallow, and you catch bigger fish shallow. Personally, I've never caught a fish, Stookie, over 28 inches or so in waist deep water. It's always been shin deep or so. Even the 32 incher that I caught last week, I caught it in shin deep water. So that's just
you obviously don't have to divulge any locations or anything along those lines, but that picture that I shared leading up to this live stream was one you recently caught, which was 32 inches in advance of Legends. A lot of big fish came that week, man. Oh my God. So getting back to Brett Carone and many others that have heard really nice fish, and certainly 32 inches is incredible. So tell us a little bit about that fish.
Man, we were pre-fishing for Legends, and everything was just coming together, I guess, like it was for a lot of people. We were hoping for a big payday, right? But you know how that works out.
Yeah.
God has different plans for all of us. I was fishing with my buddy Gio and Mike and one of my tournament partners. We were pre-fishing, and I'll tell you exactly where we were. It's a community spot. We were out towards Rocky Slough. Like we were saying, Baffin's like a lake. When the tide's low, I move towards the mouth. So I would, just off the top of my head, throwing names out there. I don't know where any fish were caught, but personally, me, this time of year, I'm fishing towards the mouth. Penascal, Come Puerta, Tide Gauge, Badlands, Rocky Slough, right? That's where I'm going. Yeah, and we worked our way down the shoreline, just hitting those deeper ledges on a low tide, just trying to stay protected from a west wind. It was a northwest wind.
Yeah.
And about the time that major kicked on, man, I was right there around Rocky Slough and busted that sucker, and it turned into an epic day. I mean, I want to say that major was started at 1:30 and ended at 3:30. We caught fish till 4 o'clock or something like that. It was epic, and all of our fish that day were caught on big smooths. And I don't know if it was the barometric pressure or what it was. They wanted that bigger profile. We were throwing.
There's a lot of big fish caught on that week, dude. I saw a lot of hype on that for sure,
man. And it's a confidence bait for me because I throw it a lot in the back of Baffin. I like that bigger profile. To me, it works good back there, especially in the winter when you're wanting to throw a corky or a bigger bait, you know. But I like to put that weedless. I'd like to throw that owner, that 3/0 weedless on there, and I can get in that grass, especially around Rocky and that deeper grass, and just let it sink. And when I pulled that sucker out of that grass, man, almost every time I was getting a short strike. And so I just sat there in one spot for 15 minutes. I caught a couple of redfish. I actually caught probably 4 to 5 pound trout in that one pothole right there in front of Rocky, just working that one pothole. And then I finally got one I thought was going to be an 8-9 pound redfish, and it was that 32-inch trout. Man, it was a cool experience. But
so, hey, I'm not ashamed to say it or afraid in any way, shape, or form. So I know the exact day that you were fishing because I was fishing the exact day you caught that giant, right? And man, I'll tell you, Pops and I and Justin, he's on here. I know he's listening. We struggled that day. That was a struggle bus for us. And I think it really kind of showcases certainly a wintertime pattern most of us certainly know about, which is, yeah, man, when you get those post frontal, it was weird because it was post frontal, but the wind was out of the west. And so there was like it hadn't quite pushed through yet, but that wind was tapering off. The water was cold. It was warm air temperature wise ish, like what, mid 50s, mid upper 50s. Water temp that we saw, it was like 44 to 46 degrees. It was chilly as shit. And so, man, I talked myself out of going further up front, and we stayed a little bit back and we bounced around. But it goes to show that, in those wintertime patterns, that those fish, especially those big ass fish, man, when you find them, they are stacked and but you're finding those really isolated areas. And so from what I understand, stayed at the lodge that night and talked to the guys that fished, not with you, but, another boat. And they had a really good day as well. And what they said is they fished up till about 1 o'clock and without a bite. And all of a sudden it was like they landed on the mother lode. Fast forward one day, made an adjustment, went to where I wanted to originally go and talked myself out of the day before, went there. And sure enough, man, they were there. The bite was interesting though. The bite was a little bit deeper, fishing 16th ounce, real slow, like just picking up, a provoker and kind of putting it down. And those fish were like on the bottom. And when they would pick it up, it wasn't like a hard thump. It was just a subtle tick. And it was weird. You'd set the hook and it felt like you're reeling in a bowling ball just because they were like so lethargic and just kind of doing their kind of death roll and a little bit of head shaking. It was really odd. But I say all that to just highlight the point, which is, man, those wintertime patterns can be tough. Don't mail it in just because it's tough, because if you do find that mother lode, man, it's class fish, upper 20s to obviously low 30s. I mean, certainly they're in the Baffin area, but regardless of your fishery, that definitely lends true. I feel so. Go ahead.
And we're speaking in the back of Baffin, right? And
sure.
And I said about that fish at Rocky Slough. And sometimes when you got a 400 Verado, you can cheat and just haul ass, right? But if I was stuck in the back, or I was walking in, or I was doing something like that in those same conditions, I would be back to where I was staying in front of that big house, on that deeper ledge. in that type of area. I'd try to mimic the same structure, because you do got that same structure, but you also got to remember the majority of those fish, and I'm not a biologist, I don't know if they get so lethargic like we were just saying, where they just don't want to eat and they're still sitting there, or if they do run towards the mouth or what it is, but they do slow down, and you're gonna see a bigger bite out there towards the mouth. But if you mimic the same structure and do that same thing, do the same patterns,
Yeah.
you're gonna see the same results. You might not catch the numbers, but you're gonna catch that big one. So just stay patient, grind through it, and sometimes you gotta put that big smooth on the ground, baby, and just drag it.
It was odd. I mean,
it might be a rock, it might be a trout. You never know.
Yeah, but just picking up that bait real slow. It was kind of like twitch, and just you could feel that little 16 just gliding down on a Lil John XL or Provoker, and it finally rests, and then you pick it up, and it would almost go spongy, but you feel that little tick, and when you rear back, man, you just feel it like it's like almost feel like you're hung and on a rock, and then it's just like ooh.
Chris,
anyway,
that day when they were barely hitting it that you're talking about, when y'all got them in, was the bait way down their throat?
Yep.
Yeah. That's the most interesting thing. I try to get my clients to realize is that when they swallow a bait like that, you barely feel that hit at all. You'll barely feel a tap. You set the hook, you get it in, it's back in his throat on tails and stuff. Chris, did you pull up this question about the Big Papa Pearl and Chicken of the Sea? Because that's where I went. I went to grab.
Oh, my bad. No, I didn't. That's from Mr. John, right? Okay, my bad. Go ahead.
So man, I went and grabbed these because I knew I had them kind of close. This is so weird when you do this because your hands are never where you think they are. Here we go. All right. So this is Chicken of the Sea, right? And it's a lot darker, and it's got some red flakes, some black flakes, and a silver belly. This is Big Papa Pearl. It's more of like a pearl belly with like a tan top with blue and black flakes. Now, one of the reasons we caught so many fish on this Big Papa Pearl last year is because and there's a little back out view. You see that silver belly, and the truth down south has that silver belly as well with a purple top. So there's the Chicken of the Sea Pure, and then there's the Big Papa Pearl with the blue flakes. Now, those blue flakes, I think, are what makes that Big Papa Pearl so versatile, because we were catching trout last year. For us, I don't know, Storm, I don't know if it's the same. I think it is. Springtime is we get a lot of pinfish, and it's kind of hard to. Sometimes they're really picky when they get on those pinfish, and they're super super aggressive because when they hit those pinfish and the fins go up in their mouth, they go crazy. So they hit them really hard, try to kill them when they hit them. But we were like kind of transitioning from getting them real shallow. They were chasing some small mullet, some things of that nature, and then the pinfish where I catch them are usually a little bit deeper, waist deep or more, in some grass beds. And I was still throwing the Big Papa Pearl with the blue flakes, and they were still hammering it. And I tried some other baits that were similar, and if it didn't have the blue flakes, they didn't really want it. So that Big Papa Pearl is it's very versatile. But I mean, that Chicken of the Sea, man, I mean, I follow a lot of people on social media, and a lot of people that fish Baffin. You see that Chicken of the Sea come up a lot. it's very consistent over there from what I see.
My deal is like the Big Papa Pearl and the Chicken of the Sea. They're great colors. Comparable, I would say the Big Papa Pearl, I throw it a lot more in like grayer water.
Yeah.
Cloudier or more like clay. We have a lot of clay in Baffin, and that blue flake, it gives you an advantage, I think, in that grayer clay or water. And it looks just like a mullet,
Yeah.
But that Chicken of the Sea, that greener water, that's when I tend to throw it the most. That little trout, what they say, trout green water, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
When the sun starts coming out, and that's when I really like to throw it. But I've noticed in areas like the Gruo, I say right across from that boat ramp here, and in the back of Baffin, we don't have a whole lot of grass. There's a lot of clay. A lot of those ledges, when they come steep drop-offs, those things are constantly falling, so they muddy the water up, and it's clay, so it's gray right in there. especially if you have that, back to that one question about the wind, right? If you're fishing a windward shoreline and you're back over there, it's gray water. And that big Papa Pearl works excellent. So that's when I would throw it.
You got
Yeah. I agree.
I can't tell if this is Mr. Mike or Mike Chrisman, the guy who guides back in Baffin. I think it's his pop. So, what part of the day do you generally? Oh, that's Big Mike. Okay. What part of the day do you generally find the trout bite is best?
Man, Mike, just as well as anybody else, the back of Baffin, you've been fishing it a long time, and it's funny because I got a lot of guys out here that know so much more about fishing this bay than I do. I've been here for so long, but barometric pressure is so important in Baffin Bay. But besides the barometric pressure, moon underfoot, moon overfoot are two of my favorite bites. Like today, okay. I was sitting here getting ready for this podcast, and I walked outside, and I think it was 5:30, and I looked up, and that moon was just almost perfect. The wind was blowing. It's north, and the conditions are working against us, but that moon was just right, and I knew I could have got out there and caught a fish, but
here you are.
Had to come do this.
Son of a bitch.
But I like the rising or falling pressure. I don't like a certain pressure per se. I just like it moving.
Near sundown, all the gods of love. That's the best time to fish.
Yeah, man, Tyler, I can't tell you how many times me and my buddies have just heading out. So had some great times out there.
Yeah.
Hey, dude, people think it's crazy when they book a trip with me and I say, hey, don't plan anything for the entire day because I have no idea what time we're starting or when we're fishing. We're either going to fish in the morning or we're going to fish in the evening. And, some people are like, oh, we got to fish in the morning or whatever. And other people are like, wait, we might fish in the evening? I was like, we'll be riding home in pitch black if we need to,
Let me tell you.
I go when the fish is biting. That's what I do.
I've fished with Kyle, and he'll wear you out.
That's right. Sun up, sun down. I don't know, man. I've gotten a little easier now. If I know I'm gonna stay late, I might be like, all right, boys, we're leaving at like 9. I can't do the 6 to 9 at night anymore. Those are getting tough.
Back to that trip, man. How about old Darian? I think he outfished all of us. I was sitting in the boat probably.
That was his day.
2 hours before he was.
Yeah, that was. Yeah, he would catch a fish. I'd be like, God, now I gotta go over there and take a picture.
Kept getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah. Hey, that one day though, man, those grass beds are gone. You'd be so surprised how much different that place is just from when you were there a couple of years ago. But those grass beds have since been gone. But man, that one day we were walking and those potholes were just so you could just see the potholes so good. And if you threw like right past it and you stopped a cork in the pothole, you got nailed. And that was a fun little way. That's when Darren just put it on us. I was like, good for him. But that was
every dog has his day, right?
That's right. Yeah. The sun shines on a dog ass at some point.
Yeah. Hey. Might only be at 1:00 in the afternoon, but hell.
Hey, Storm, what are some notable stories that you've heard or some fish that you've seen or caught or been a part of that kind of stand out to you?
Man, I have one story that sticks out to me that I tell it often. I was fishing with a buddy of mine on the South Shoreline over at Black Bluff. It's this time of year. We'll say it might have been late March, early May, and y'all probably won't believe this story. But I parked the boat on the shoreline. Place over there, we call it the Sticks. And if you've ever been past Black Bluff in between there and Corrales, you know where those. I don't know if it was an old cabin at one point or what it was. But I pulled up there on the shoreline. That tide was real high, and I got out. And Chris was actually my intern at the time, and I was working for Rod and Gun. I was working for Sally and Aubrey, and I had a couple clients. We let them get out and pick the way they wanted to go. It's what I normally do with my guys. I give them the layout, and most of my guys are pretty good fishermen, and they know what they want to do, right? But I got out of the boat, and I'm standing ankle deep on the shoreline, and I cast at Chris, who's probably 13 yards from the boat. I hit him in the back, hits his raincoat, falls in the water, and I got a hit. And I hooked this fish, man. It comes out of the water, and I don't know. I could tell a fish story. I don't know how big it was. Ended up fighting this fish for a while and losing it. And then next cast, we're laughing and joking about this, right? Next cast, do it again. Hit him in the ass, falls in the water, and landed a 29-inch trout. Same thing. I don't know if it was the same fish or not. The other one looked a little bit bigger. But that's probably one of the wildest springtime stories that I've witnessed myself. I've seen some cool stuff out there, but that to me was wild.
So Chris is your brother, right?
No, Chris, a good friend of mine, we met through Rod and Gun. He came down on an internship.
Oh, is it Skinny Water Chris?
Skinny Water Chris, yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
My bad. Yeah, he'll attest to that. So if you don't believe me, just ask him.
Okay.
But that's Baffin for you though too, and going back to Caron's fish, man. I don't know where he caught it, whether it was Baffin or Rockport or Nueces or where, but that sounds like a Baffin deal to me, man. Honestly, I've never seen another place in the world that kind of stuff would happen. But if it was Rockport, awesome.
Yeah, no kidding. Right?
Dude, I mean, Baffin, though.
He wasn't mad. I'll tell you, man, that was awesome. Awesome videos and to kind of capture that, not only that, but certainly have the 10-2-3 or 10-2-8, whatever it was, the first one, and just being blown away with that. And then 20-30 minutes later catching 11-8-3 or whatever it was. That's wild, man. And it just shows
out of bed in the morning right there.
Darren Jones from Feral Concepts said that he can't comment for some reason, but he wants me to ask Storm for some of his mustache grooming secrets. The power of the mustache.
Oh yeah, my wife might be watching. Keep that a secret.
Oh man, leaving it to the dirty mind, I guess.
Yeah. All right, let's see, Mason. Let's see. South Alabama, we've been fishing the same pattern since late November. Something changed last week, and all those fish are gone. I believe it has had something to do with the new moon and warming water temps. Have you seen a drastic change to fish patterns in the last 7 days as well?
I'll answer that first since I'm so close to them. And absolutely, dude. So that water over here, I was on the water every day the past 8 days, and it got up to 60 at one point for a couple of days and kind of creeped down a little bit. But yeah, man, that winter pattern for here is probably done for the year, dude. The bait's not where it was in the this past winter. I would just my tidbit. I know you know how to fish, dude. I would go to your spring spots. They're already there. That's what whenever I hit a couple spots that I was doing decent in the winter and the bait wasn't there and they weren't there, the first thing I did was go to a couple spring spots and I didn't stop till I saw bait, and when I did, it was a gold mine. So yep, go to your spring spots. They already moved, at least here in Mississippi waters. So that's what I would do.
I would say we're on that transition. You know what I mean? We're right in between it, but it's our winter pattern's over here also. I mean, but you say that, and then you get into April, and anything could happen. It's South Texas. Hey, we don't want to see it, but it could freeze at the end of March. You never know.
Yeah, true. So, Storm, I mean, with it transitioning here or feeling like it is, I mean, what are you like? What adjustments are you making?
I'll go back to what I said earlier about getting up shallow on those grass beds, on those smaller grass lines. If you fish Baffin or any bait system in that matter, and you know where those shallow grass lines are that you can't normally fish. And
was that a handle of tequila?
No, that's a water.
Sorry, Storm. I thought that was a handle of tequila. I was like, damn it, boy.
Getting it, bro. Long day. Long day.
No, it looked like from the angle, like you were holding it like this. And I was like,
that's hilarious.
No. So I cleared this with Christian in the beginning. I asked him.
Yeah, he's turning up, son. My bad, Storm.
No, you're good, brother. You're good. What was the question again? patterns?
No, how are you adjusting to it being a transition? Like what adjustments are you making?
So we're watching the tide, honestly. I mean, but that's what we're gonna do when that tide comes up. Right now, it's in between those cold fronts. Baffin is like a drain, and when that wind swaps around and those cold fronts go, he's got his. It's Ash Wednesday, man. Come on.
I know, man. Give me a break. You know how Catholics get down to Hudson.
I don't think I'm the only one that thought that. It was weird. On the video, I swear it looked like it had a handle in it. I was like, damn, dude. Like, I mean, I've drank a couple beers on here before, but I've never turned up a bottle, man. Golly.
You don't know what's in that bottle, though. Really.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, a bottle of water.
Man, but I'll be looking for those tides to come up. We'll be looking at that moon, and it should be coming up here pretty quick, right? Everywhere, all over the coast. And when it does in Baffin, I'll be looking to move it shallower. Right now, we're fishing these deeper ledges and those deeper rock patterns and stuff like that. But the tide's coming and going. So this last week, while we were fishing legends, I was working out late.
The comments are rolling in.
I know, man. Shit. Note to self.
You're busted.
Hey, next one, I am bringing a handle of freaking vodka, or
If we have a guest and it's slow, just pull out a handle. And start
hey, if y'all want to do one of those drinking podcasts, I could maybe do another.
No, I got
story. Sorry, Storm. Since we've gone there, when I was in Korea, we would play this game called No Pass. And so it was literally exactly as it sounds. So somebody would break out a bottle of any sort of liquor. And if you were like standing there talking or whatever it is, somebody would just yell at no pass and then take a swig. And then you would literally not turn it around or not turn it down. And it would go around until that bottle is empty. So we can certainly do some kind of no pass on one of these, live streams next time, where just passing around, man. Keep it going.
We'll have to get you boys to La Pesca, and we'll have to do it while we're all sitting in the same place.
I intend to fish and not be laid face down right in front of one of those fire pits outside. So
we'll make it a 3-day trip.
I'm gonna bring some of the Georgia moonshine I got last week.
Dude, no shit. I saw that.
They bring me moonshine every year, and I'm telling you, it's the best I've ever. They got this year. They gave me butterscotch. Peach, man, it's dangerous. It's dangerous. I don't even want to talk about
There's
it.
Brian right there. That's my drinking buddy. You get him.
Oh yeah, Brian. Okay.
Good to hear from you, Brian.
Yeah. Hey, I saw Kendrick in here. Wyatt posted Meg. Congrats on a Legends event there at Port A. And their finish has been
Wyatt's on fire, man.
Well earned, man. That's awesome.
I agree, man. What a good team. What a great stick.
Yeah.
Super pumped.
How was that fishing last week, Storm? You fished Legends, right?
Oh man, Legends is always it's fun no matter what. I mean, it's a cool opportunity because you're fishing against some of the best fishermen in Texas, and I say Texas, but it could be the nation, honestly.
Yeah.
It's an awesome experience, and I hope maybe one day I can learn enough to get in there and compete with these guys. But you got to give it to the guys that win it, man. They're fishing up and down the Texas coast. They're excellent fishermen. They know more about these bay systems than shit. I mean, just fish against them, you'll know. I don't even need to brag on them. It speaks for itself.
Sure.
I don't think it can be possible just because of where they fish and everything. But if a TV show ever got a hold of that and got involved with it, it would be the sickest show. Like, just because of like what you just said. I mean, some of those guys, the boats they got, how far they're running, how fast they're going.
I don't think they can't kick your ass into your own backyard either. It's just sometimes those schools of fish are spread out, but I'd put them up against you in your own backyard too.
Yeah,
I know some of these guys I'd be scared to fish with them back here in the back of Baffin.
Yeah. So last Legend stop is 27 through 29 March out of Corpus, right?
Yes, sir.
Damn,
that'll
man,
be a good one. That's my time of the year, man. That's the time I shine. So y'all watch out.
Yeah. So Mike posted. I did see on Chad had posted that you guys did have a fog delay in that second day. How was that?
Man, it's fishing. You just take it. You can get it. I do the same thing with clients. I know there's some guys giving Chad a little hard time about it, but at the end of the day, safety comes first. You go out when you can and you fish your best fish, and you don't complain because those other guys got the same conditions as you. And if they can do it and you can't, that's not their fault. That's why I love this tournament. Everybody's got to catch their own fish. I mean, it's the real deal.
Well, I mean, like you may or may not know, but we have Logan Mitchell. He's one of our guys. He fishes over. He's actually from Lake Charles. Fishes kind of the southwest side of Louisiana. And man, he was involved in a really, really bad boating accident. About second week of January, Kyle? This is what it was.
Yeah.
And hit a mooring line, man. Almost took his head off. Like legit.
Those pictures were crazy. He got scalped, dude. That was nuts. He's healing good. I've been talking to him. He's healing.
Oh
good.
Yeah, no, he's doing great, which is great, man. Thank God. But the point I want to make with that is, he was fishing Sabine, I think. Anyway, he's run that bayou a lot, and run that area a lot. And I think he ran it like the day before, something along those lines. And if he's on here, you can chime in. In other words, he's very familiar with that kind of navigable waterway, and just a barge that was posted up had a mooring line that was not lit. Obviously, it damn near ended his life, and it was because he was, hell bent on getting to a spot, wanting to, be there first and try to target some fish in some heavy fog, and feeling very comfortable, running those waterways in that situation. And so, I've been there, myself, fishing in Port Sulphur in Louisiana and feeling very comfortable running in pea soup, and knowing kind of where my landmarks are. And this is even kind of before GPS, and just feeling comfortable. But all it takes is that one accident, and especially those, you guys, man, going freaking a gazillion miles an hour. That's just not something that would be a bad day for everybody, right? So,
anyway, I'm probably going to get torn up for this, but I really don't care, because I've had this conversation with a couple people, and I just, for the life of me, cannot understand why. Like, every time I'm down in Texas, right, and there was that one year in Mansfield, and it was stupid fog. And the guys with Laguna rods, they got ran over by somebody. I know it happens down there a lot. I don't understand why nobody has freaking radar, because y'all all got a lot of boats with a big arch that you stand up on. You could literally just fab something that you can bolt that radar on and off. I don't understand why nobody has radar, dude. I don't get it, because here's
most of us only have one motor here, Kyle.
Well, it's. The thing is that everybody thinks, oh, I got my tracks, I'm going to follow my track. Your tracks ain't going to tell you if somebody's there or a log is there or something is there. I'll tell y'all right here on live, the last time that I ran without radar, and I've told this to a bunch of clients, so I don't care about saying it. I had clients with me. It was like my first year chartering. It was super foggy. I had that same mindset. I said, I got good tracks. I know where I'm going, and I wasn't even going far. What I didn't think about was I was crossing the ICW, and it's just, it's nothing crazy. It's just channel markers, right? And I had the channel markers and everything marked, and I had my tracks. I'm going, 35 miles an hour, so foggy, couldn't see in front of me. And I got music blaring like an idiot. And I just hear something real faint. I just hear this, like the same sound. I thought it was my stereo. So I turned the music down, and it was a tug that had radar that knew I was coming right at him. And he was blaring his horn. And I started to slow down, and I'm talking at the last second. I'm not kidding. They scared me to death, scared my clients to death. I missed this barge by a millisecond. I mean, anything less, we would probably all be dead, right? And so I stopped. I idled back, didn't charge the people nothing. I felt so bad. They were fine with it. But I told myself right then and there, I said, I'm never running without radar again. And I had another buddy here. I'm not going to name him. I don't want to dime him out. But he left one day, and it was after that had happened to me, and it was the same conditions. And I said, dude, I'm not leaving. And he left. He ran into a crab boat. Here's another little tidbit. Don't follow crab pot lines in the fog, because them dudes work in any condition. And I never would have thought of that if he wouldn't have ran into one. He was following them because he was like, well, I know this is deep enough water, and he was following those crab line pots, and there was crabbers working. They ran into a crab boat. So I don't understand how they feel comfortable running, in that fog without a radar, when it's like, radar is the technologies, it plugs into like every GPS now, and it's like $1,500 to $2,000, and you can actually see what's in front of you. You can actually I will not run in if my vision is impaired by rain, fog, whatever. If my radar ain't working, I'm canceling the trip. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah,
I'm not. It's just too dangerous.
And I'll tell you, as a licensed captain, safety for my clients is the utmost importance. And I think about things, spending 300 days a year on the water that other people don't. So you have that crab boat going down those crab lines. Those are things I think about. And like running out of this tournament, I could have made it shorter. I could have ran faster. I could have cut across flats. Like coming through marker 37, I was running south. I could jump on that flat, run the King Ranch shoreline. But my mindset in that fog is I'm going to stay with the flow of traffic. You got that intercoastal. You have guys that are supposed to be coming down this side. You got guys that are supposed to be going this way. But then you also have all the guys, and I wouldn't say they're idiots or anything like that. They might just not know any better. They might only get to fish 2 days a year, and that's the only day they get to go out. But they're going to be on that flat, or they're going to be on that shoreline, or they're going to be fishing in areas where they want to go to, like our buddy that got clipped.
Yeah.
He's trying to get there. And sometimes you got to use common sense. Stay in the highway. In the fog in a car, I'm not cutting across intersections. I'm staying in my lane, right? Because the next car is going to be going the same direction. You might be going slower, but it still gives you time to slow down. And then Stookie, I forget what Stookie said. What did Stookie say on there?
Oh, people forget you play in the road, you're going to see cars.
Well,
that one?
That one. It's not always you. You know what I mean?
That's what I'm getting at, is that, without a radar, you can't see what's in front of you, man. It's just too dangerous to me, man. It's just not worth it, because it's not a matter of if, it's when. It's just and that same year that we were down there, and those Laguna Rod guys, I'm saying that just because we talked to them at Blues that night. I'm pretty sure it's them that got hit, but yeah, I was waiting, and we were with Jay, and there was a boat coming straight towards me, and we laugh about it now. Jay is like, he's like, Kyle, they're coming towards you. And I'm like, yeah, I think so. And then eventually I'm going like this, and they swerve off.
And they're like, drinking coffee, right?
And I'm like, and the one guy, it's a big joke between me and Jay. He's like, you got to watch your Garmin. He was yelling at the dude driving. And I'm sitting here like, that Garmin ain't telling you shit because you ain't got radar. I don't know. It's just one of my things, man. I don't see how over there they feel comfortable running that fog. I mean, it's so easy. It's literally 2 wires to slap on a radar on that top bar, and you're not going to hit nothing.
Yeah, so. And even though, but then again, back to that, you could be the guy that get out there with your radar, get out there fine, and you set up where you want to go, and then you get run over by the guy that doesn't have radar. So, and I tell my clients when I stay back in the fog, it's not us. I can run this thing with my eyes closed. It's the next guy.
Yeah.
That's who I'm worried about.
And I'm thinking about that too. Now, especially that when you came out shantying with me, we didn't see another person for 2 days, and it's like that sometimes. But I know if I am going fishing in this fog, I'm not fishing out in the middle. Not just trout fishing, any type of trip. I'm not fishing out in the middle of anywhere. I'm fishing somewhere I know I'm kind of protected inside some sandbars or something. Definitely keeping that in mind after I get somewhere, because like you just said, I mean, if that captain saved our lives, I wasn't going to stop and thank him because he probably would have shot me. But if he wouldn't have been watching that radar and blowing that horn, I would have slammed into him. There's no doubt about it. And that was I had trip the next day, and I had like anxiety attacks the next day, and it wasn't even foggy, but I was like, man, I almost killed some people, and that's probably why I'm so fired up about it, because I almost messed up pretty bad. So
I don't mess with lightning, and I don't mess with fog, and
I ain't messing with no lightning.
We're gonna wait, and we're gonna go out when it's safe. And I think like back to that question on the tournament, I think Chad does a great job of that. Wait till safe fly, and sometimes like in that fog where we were in Port Aransas, man, that fog let up in the channel. When he let us go, but it get back towards marker 37, and it might be nothing but soup again. But that's when as a captain, you say, what do I need to do?
But he's trying to make the best decision, right, for just to ensure everyone's safety, right? And he can't control the conditions everywhere, but he's trying to make the best decision, given the situation for everybody that is participating, because heaven forbid, man, something tragic happened, then that really puts a damper on obviously everything else that somebody would be seriously injured for that. When it's avoidable, right?
Yeah. Sometimes it's when it's nasty, just time to pull over and get out of the way.
Yeah. All right. So hey, I want to it's what, an hour and 21 minutes,
because it's like almost an hour and a half in, and I'm ready.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, no, it's fair. So, and I know you got to. I don't know if you're staying at the lodge tonight, Storm.
I am.
But no, I do want to end it. But before we do, I just want to kind of kick it over to Storm, man. If you got anything else you want to add or say before we get out of here,
man. I won't try to answer a bunch of questions about the lodge or anything, but I will say this: if you do have any questions, or if you guys want to come down and stay with us, we're not just an all-inclusive lodge, which we do. I'd hit on a couple price points real quick. Let's say you wanted to come down and do an all-inclusive trip with 4 guys. We'll charge an average of $575 per person, and that meals, lodging, fishing, everything included. All you do is bring your toothbrush. We don't sell alcohol, but it's complimentary. So we'll have coolers out here with some beer. We got a full bar with most of your liquor, and then it includes your alcohol on your boat, sandwiches. We do breakfast, we do lunch, we do appetizers, we do a great dinner. I have some girls here that bring you drinks, some waitresses, and then we have a chef. There's a bunch of things to touch on, but I'll go ahead and say my phone number is 361-522-5048. My wife is 296-4030, which they're on our website. Okay. So
yeah, let's say you told me that number.
But call us, because we're always by our phone, man, and we're here to answer any questions. And it's completely custom. So if you call the number on the website, you're going to talk to my wife. She's going to build a package for you. We're going to do the best we can to accommodate you, whether it's one person, 25 people, or if you're looking to bring your own boat and stay with us, just lodging, or if you want meals, or maybe you want to bring your own boat and stay. And I'll use this as an example. I got guys that fish the tournament that they want to come down and bring their own boat and pre-fish for 4 or 5 days, and then they might want to fish with me the first day they get here or something like that. I mean, it's all custom. It's down to your food. So just call us.
Yeah. No, and having stayed there, having done some events there for the CCA Night Out, you guys hosted that for CCA Texas, and y'all are very involved within the community. But having been there and stayed there, had Amber's cooking, man, I brought Pops down there when he was here, and he's like, son, next time I'm coming to visit you and we're fishing back there, we're staying there, because, man, it's nice. It really is. And really, when it all boils down to it's actually not only nice, but it kind of makes the most sense. You're right next to Coffer, and so the launch, and it just makes a lot of things easy. So anyway, hope people give you a shout.
You got their socials on hand, their Instagram and all that, because she does a good job keeping up with that stuff on Instagram.
Yeah, and just to touch on that one more time, I know I'm not the most popular person, so you don't have to fish with me, right? I know a lot of guys want to come down here and fish with some other guides, and if you want to stay with us and fish with another guide, that's not a problem either. I have guides that run out of here all the time. So y'all come on down, fish Baffin Bay, and stay with us.
And that's the main lodge that you're in right now, where everybody eats.
Yeah. Here, I'll spin this around real quick. But this is just kind of the gathering area right here. We got some dining tables over there, and then our retail there on the farther end. Oh. No, that's my wife back over there.
Oh, okay.
She's hiding. You say hi.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. What up?
We're a family-run business, man. Come on down, check us out.
Yep,
we'll shoot you straight, man. Anyway.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks, Megan. It's good seeing you too, bro.
She's back.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's cool. All right, we're gonna close this one out. Kyle, you got anything else, buddy?
I'm good, man. Storm, appreciate you being on here. I can't think of a better backdrop on a live stream yet. I think you got the best backdrop. That's pretty dope. All the stuff back there. So, Chris, do you think of a better one we've done? Somebody had a good backdrop. I mean, Sweeney's is pretty cool. He's got all his trophies behind him, but that's pretty dope. That's a cool backdrop.
No, I appreciate you guys more than you know, and I'd love to get together and do something. So all you guys out there watching, y'all come on down, man. Play some cornhole, drink some beers. We'll have a good time.
Cool. Sounds good. All right, guys. Well, hey, we are trying to get our podcast. I know Kyle and I have talked about it. We're trying to get that up and running. Heavy Hitters kind of going good now that the Loys are in. We got a couple more things to button up, and then we'll start rolling out in the podcast. But a lot of really fun things coming out, I would say, for Speckled Truth in 2025 and beyond. But we're working on it. So give us some grace and some patience. We do appreciate it, and we'll continue to work on that. But this is a good one, Storm. Appreciate it. Kyle, thanks, brother. I know you got to get a shower and get cleaned up. Are you chartering tomorrow?
No, I'm finishing up the boat, man. I've been fixing stuff that's been broke for like a year.
That damn radar.
My radar's top notch, son. It's the best Garmin radar there is. But no, you know how it is, Storm. You get little stuff that breaks, and you don't have to fix it right then. And the next thing you know, it's been a year, and you're like, I sure would like to have that working again.
That's when you call Darren Jones from Faro Concepts. He's pretty handy. Get him.
Yeah, I wish he was close by so he could do it all for me, but I got to do it all myself.
I'll bring the tequila next time for sure, and I appreciate.
I'll bring the
moonshine. Yeah, all right.
Well, guys, y'all have to open up and come on down, see us.
Yeah. All right, buddy.
Appreciate it, Storm.
Yeah, y'all have a good one. Adios.